Hey guys, Don here. Welcome to Podiatry Practice Mastery, trying to get your practice to the $1 million mark and beyond. This is day number 2 at the AAPPM in Lago Mar, and my brain is tired. One more day left here. So just so you know, everything that I'm going to be talking about is I'm going to put underneath this podcast. If you're listen to it in my podcast. It's a link to a Notion page, and you'll see day 2 here. So if you want to see a little bit more in-depth stuff. So on here, we'll start here with a couple of day 2. So I'm going to talk about first. I had lunch because sometimes the best things about these conferences are what you learn at lunch with other people. I learned kind of a neat idea. There's a doctor. She was in an orthopedic practice for 10 years, and now she's going out on her own, and she's been doing this course on creating websites. And the neat idea, the neat takeaway, in my opinion, was trying to purchase other domains that are .coms in your area because someone might want to buy them in the future, for one. And then second is you can use them to redirect to your website. So for example, I'm in Worcester, so you could do like foot pain Worcester, foot doc Worcester, anything else kind of Worcester, podiatry Worcester, all these things. And to do a .com is usually $18 a year, which is a cheap price. And then you can redirect, which I was thinking, okay, I'll just redirect. But then they have another idea. This is kind of cool. And what this is to do is doing another website. And I thought to myself, gosh, another website, how much of a pain? But then she said, no, there's something called WPASTRA, WordPress, I think, WordPress Astra. It's a theme, it's a starter template plugin that allows you to use AI to produce a WordPress website. Now, I don't know how great it is. I know I have some of my colleagues that are listening to this, like Jim. He might say, oh, this sucks, but I'd like to know his feedback also on this. But it's kind of a neat idea to create like a little one-page microsite that then you can forward that to your web page, right? So you can talk about something. I did one similarly, if you want to see it, because when I was doing videos and I was creating this funnel for warts, I wanted, like, I didn't want to put like centralmasspodiatry.com/warts because it was just kind of a long thing in the video. So as I was doing the videos, I just bought the domain fixmywart.com. So it was an easy domain. I think it was easy to talk about, and it would be easy. Now, I did look for Fix My Heel. That didn't exist, or Fix My Achilles. That really didn't exist. So I couldn't buy all the other ones. But I thought it was a neat idea if you're doing like some kind of directed marketing. So anyway, that was the first thing for my lunch. That's what I learned. Breakfast roundtable in the morning. It was a good talk. So basically at the breakfasts we kind of talk about different things. So they gave me kind of this idea of doing what I've been talking. So this new rule I talked a little bit about yesterday for lymphedema. You can now bill insurance for 3 garments every 6 months. So it would be 6 garments if it's bilaterally every year. So continuing on. So it's one of those things that continues to produce revenue. And they had this recommendation for these compression, but also for like wound care. A lot of times when you're doing wound care, when you're doing Medicare and wound care or compression, many times they're going to not allow you to do this. And they'll like write it off, the DME, if you're doing also wound care. So the thought was for wound care and compression, considering dispensing for Medicare, but then using home shipping for other commercial insurances, because many times the commercial will write off the DME stuff. So for commercial, you can send it to Amerix. They're the ones that do this kind of home delivery thing. What's the benefit of doing that? Well, they verify benefits, they ship it to the patient the next day, and then you'll get paid. Whereas if you're doing a commercial plan, sometimes when you dispense it in your office, you might not get paid because it'll bundle it all together. You might not get paid for the wound care. I thought that was a neat idea. The only drawback to that, there's a benefit, but the drawback is like if you buy things in bulk, like 20, you'll get a discount. Whereas when you do that, you have to pay shipping, and you also have to do like almost like the regular price. So there's no amount to discount. Another kind of idea at the breakfast was like a new patient coordinator / practice representative. I've liked the idea of a practice rep for a long time since we've been talking about it. But this is kind of an interesting kind of a combination. So basically it's a new patient coordinator, which would like kind of help the WOW experience for new patients, and then they would also be a practice rep. So I thought that was a neat idea. You can do that in person. I've also thought about like doing it virtually, but I don't know how a practice rep virtually would go visit places. They really couldn't do that. But with the practice coordinator, they talked about like could share what to expect from the visit. They could check on insurance. They could greet the new patients. So that there's an idea. There's also the idea of virtual assistant. That was kind of a big focus here at this meeting, was a virtual assistant, kind of using them to verify insurance, scheduling patients. There's a couple that they talked about, Virturo, Hello Rach, and then Doc Assist Me. I think they gave a couple of tips, though, just to make sure that they're actually doing their work, would be to have them track metrics, meaning have them something they can track, like how many, or you can track their phone calls, how many phone calls they're doing, something like that. And then they could also track on doing patient recalls. Like if patients hasn't been seen in a month or haven't been seen in a year, they can call them and see how they're doing. Another thought that I had is they could also do like the marketing campaign as well. So all those things kind of together with this. I think if you just document it out, there are things that I've always wanted to do. I just can't get my staff to do them. So you could potentially use a virtual person to do that. We talked a little bit about tax ideas, and I've shared this idea, whereas my wife helps kind of with the marketing. And so because of that, we're able to both max out the 401k. So that's about all she makes is the amount to max out the 401k. And they talked about hiring kids and things like that for your practice, and then putting that into something that they could be used for college in the future if they're doing work for you. We talked a lot about nurse practitioners. There's kind of a neat idea from I really admire the work from Lexington Podiatry. Dr. Friel, she's great. And now my newest admiration is for Cody. So Cody, if you're listening to this, cheers to you. Because he is like a rock star, and what they do is they don't practice that much. As I was talking to them, they have Dr. Cotter, she does half days, and then Dr. Friel, she does like 1 or maybe 2 days, and then all the other stuff is done by a nurse practitioner. They have, they also have their side businesses and other things like that, which I admire that. But what we're talking about is nurse practitioners. They can bill under their own number now, or at least in Massachusetts they can. They can see patients, CDFEs, medication fills, post-ops, nail care. And the idea would be that your per visit value would go up because you can reduce some of the low-value patients. They could also go to nursing homes, and they could, you need a physician collaborator. That just means like you need a doctor to kind of sign off on their things, and then that doctor you would just pay like $500 a month, like a MD, to do that. I want to talk, there was a person that asked me within my practice mastery group about a comprehensive diabetic foot exam. So this is something that I do once a year around the patient's birthday. And I try to get a diagnosis that's not diabetes. So I'll try to talk about another issue, if it's arthritis or if it's a bunion or if it's an ingrown toenail. So it's not like I'm seeing them. So I see mine every 3 months, so 4 visits a year. I'm sorry, 3 visits, 4 visits a year. And then one of those around their birthday, I'm going to do a diabetic foot exam. And that's where I do kind of like the neurological, I'll do the vascular, a lot of times I'll prescribe diabetic shoes, I'm going to be prescribing ABIs, things like that. So it's a little bit more comprehensive, and I send that over their endocrinologist and their primary care. But a lot of times the way I learned it is to try not to do diabetes, try to do another code for that. Okay. We talked a little bit about getting to find doctors, like a podiatry recruiters, so like using a LinkedIn posting, and even there's a paid version, and it's pretty good to try to get doctors, but a lot of people are struggling getting doctors, hence the reason for using podiatry recruiters. And then we talked a little bit about REMI, and this was kind of a hallway conversation with one of the doctors that we were talking. I have this REMI, and I don't use it as much, and I think it's because I have Shockwave, but he had a kind of a neat idea, was like charging $100 a visit and do that for all post-op patients. So I've thought about using Shockwave in post-op, but he uses REMI for post-op. That was kind of a neat idea. And then you can also, though, like add it to Shockwave. That's another thing I thought of, is like you can add it, let's say, instead of being 250 for the radial and focused, you could add laser for another 50. I'm still not really sure what to do, but I think those were some neat ideas so I could actually use it more. Okay. And then there was a marketing roundtable, which is always my favorite place. They talked about a couple ways of creating content. One was called Fathom, which is a recorder for Zoom, and it can transcribe it, and then it can give you like an idea, and these can give you different ideas. And I like that idea because right now I'm recording this on my phone on the recording section, but it doesn't transcribe it. And then when I upload it to the podcast, and then like iTunes will transcribe it. But then if I want to like create content based on this audio or based on videos, it's a little bit more challenging. Okay. So I thought that was a neat idea of using Fathom. And you can also use that when you're doing interviews with other people or just talking about things. One thing that we use Zoom a lot for is we do interviews now. I think I've talked about this before. But when we do interview staff people, my office manager interviews them, and then they record it on Zoom, so we can kind of get an impression, and you can send that link to the doctors to have them kind of vet that person. We talked about online reviews, a lot of different platforms that people use, like Doctable, Yossi, Swell, Signal Health. There were some talks about incentivizing staff, like if their name is in the review, getting another $20. I thought that was kind of a neat idea to kind of get some buy-in from staff and have them kind of encourage reviews as well. And then this is another cool idea, would be when you're in your office meeting once a month or once a week, kind of to go through the positive reviews and show the staff so they know that, and then even going over the negative ones in your huddle, and then see what you can do to make it better. Okay. An idea of doing a heat map on a website. If anyone else knows how to do that, I'd love to know if there's like a website you can do a heat map, or you have to add in something to your website to do that. I don't really know how to do a heat map, but I would like that to see kind of how people are looking at the website. And then they also recommended maybe sending up for Google Ads, don't send them just to a regular website on your web page, send them to an actual landing page so it can focus and you can track that a little bit more. Local IQ, they're talking about ads with them. We talked about the best of, like Worcester, social media marketing, having a rep to go out and help you with Google Ads. We talked about Facebook ads, not that much with that. New patient letters, kind of having a new patient letter sent out to them. I thought that was a neat idea. I don't have a system of doing that, but I thought that was a good idea. Handwriting notes. I do that occasionally. I don't do that much, but I thought that was a really good idea. And then, so we were talking a little bit about, there's a lecture on the Rudy complex. So this was a little overwhelming. This is the wonderful people at Lexington Podiatry, and Cody. He is Master of Healthcare Administration. Kind of a rock star, kind of a humble rock star, which I like about it. It was humbling to me. A couple of takeaways from this are to delegate what you don't like and do what you like. I know that sounds kind of simple, but doing more of what you like, I think, is key. This is an idea that Dan Sullivan talks a lot about, is you do what you like, and what you don't like, you delegate. So the idea of who, not how. And they do have a who, which is this person, Cody. And so a couple of things they kind of talked about were benchmarking, forecasting, kind of finding out where the profit comes in. One thing they did is they found that their routine care, really compared to the cost versus the benefit, was only about 3% of their income, so they totally stopped, and they kind of guided towards more of a boutique practice. I thought that was a great idea. It's a little too overwhelming, so if you want to look at my notes, you can look at this link underneath here. They talk about a visionary, a facilitator, which is a lot of the concepts from SEO, which is a book, Attraction by Gino. And so Gino was part of Strategic Coach, and he made kind of SEO or EOS. I'm sorry, EOS, which is kind of based on, in my opinion, on Strategic Coach, doing like 3-month intervals and looking at things in your business in a very objective way. I just love the way that Lexington Podiatry did this, and they also coach other people. I think that's great. This structure, it was a little overwhelming because most of us aren't set up as a big structure, but there's not even that many doctors, but they have it set up this way, which I think is just phenomenal. I would definitely recommend talking to them if you want to learn more. So shout out to Dr. Friels and the whole team over there. Next thing would be a little lecture on home investing. Jonathan Moore, who kind of does the More Balanced Brace, who probably has more money than any of us. He's talking about like how he bought 5 different houses, and the main takeaway for that is get your equity out of your house and invest in another real estate property. But you have to be quick on the buy because good properties go out, and he's buying different real estate and putting them into an LLC. So I thought that was a neat idea, but only to do after you've maxed out your, like my thought is once you max out your 401k, once you have like a security fund, which I tend to keep like $100,000 in a high interest bearing like Amex account. And so once you have that and then you have enough left over to do your 20% down, that's when you can kind of afford to do that. Okay, that was my opinion. Okay. And then the last thing I just want to spend some time on is with a virtual assistant. So there was a doctor that Marco, he has a virtual assistant company called Vertuo Health. It's Verturo. They're virtual assistants. The nice thing is they're from Colombia, and I've talked to him about it. We've actually looked at doing that with our staff. So let me tell you his story. Marco, he's got a very successful practice. And a few years ago, he was struggling getting staff, like I think all of us, and so he decided to use a virtual assistant. So he has 1.5 virtual assistants for one doctor. He's one doctor, 1.5, very, very successful, very profitable. They schedule appointments, check benefits, answer phones, get prior authorizations, credentialing, billing questions, virtual receptionists. They reschedule patients. They call all patients after 12 months of being seen. They have this thing called a new patient index, where they make sure everyone follows up. The office closes at like 4 or 4:30, but they answer phones till 5:30. And really the benefit is there's reduced payroll cost. Okay, that's the thing, because it can be maybe $12 to $15 an hour without benefits, whereas everyone else kind of gets more. They speak Spanish, but they also speak fluent English. They can also do random other tasks like virtual assistant tasks, and they can track everything. So I was talking to Marco, and I think he's going to be a good guy, at least now, to collaborate. Let me explain the idea. I think his idea of virtual assistant is great. So virtual assistant as a staff can save you money. The one thing that I told Marco, though, and I'm very passionate about this, I said, but a good virtual assistant used as a scribe can actually make you money. And this I want to differentiate, and I really encourage him. I think he might do this. Is I have a virtual assistant, like a scribe person, that actually makes me money, and where he saves doctors money. I think, and he was also saying, Don, I have a very profitable practice for one doctor, and he was asking, hey Don, I want to produce more revenue, but I have like certain limitations. I still don't want to work Fridays. I have about a 20% additional like area that I could see more patients, and I just want to have one office. And he's like a superstar. He has Shockwave, he has in-office X-rays, ultrasound, MRI. Like he does all the right things. And as I was talking to him, I was thinking, gosh, I wanted to help him, and really it all came together when he was lecturing about his virtual assistants. I was thinking, well, to take it to the next level, I don't think it's actually adding something. I think it might be subtracting something. And what I recommended he subtracted, I said, Marco, you could subtract doing your notes and have a scribe do them. And he gave me all these kind of ideas, why not? And I said, maybe just try it. And I think one of the biggest burdens for him would be like training a scribe. And that's where I gave him the idea. I'm like, hey, I have a scribe, and I'm always looking to help Murali, who's my scribe, and like, you could just hire him on the weekends and he could train your scribes. And so also for anyone here that wants Murali, my scribe, to train your scribes, let me know. You can email me down at podiatrypracticemastery.com, but like, that would be a great thing, so that it could reduce the learning curve, and he could kind of train his scribe, and then his scribe could train other scribes, and then this would actually help his business as well. So instead of just being a virtual assistant business, you could have a virtual scribing business. So we'll see if he kind of takes me up on the idea. I think it would really help him, and more importantly, I think this would help him increase his revenue by, I don't know, maybe 20%, something like that. So an already very successful practice. And it's not just increasing revenue, because you can add like 2 patients a day, maybe more. But more importantly, I think you're more comprehensive in your billing. You're more present with the patients, and you're less mentally fatigued. That's the biggest benefit for me of having a scribe, is I'm less mentally fatigued from multitasking over and over. So those are the highlights from day 2. If you want to see all of my notes on Notion, you can just go underneath here and click that link. It'll take you there. And I'd love to have any feedback down at podiatrypracticemastery.com. If you can like this podcast, that would be great. I tried to, and I didn't know how to. So if you can figure it out, please like it. I don't know if it's I don't know why I'm not able to like it, but like it, subscribe, share it with your friends if you found this beneficial.